In the headlines, Asia is reinstating COVID-era screenings after a deadly Nipah virus outbreak in India, with a 75% fatality rate and no vaccine. Health officials in Thailand and Nepal are racing to lock down international borders. President Trump predicts the imminent collapse of the Cuban government. Following the capture of Nicolas Maduro, Washington has blocked oil shipments to Havana, plunging the area into a severe energy crisis. Russia and China are deepening strategic ties amid global turmoil. Defense ministers from both nations held a high-level summit to coordinate responses to shifting geopolitics in Venezuela and Iran. The AFP says the recent rescue of 15 Filipino crew members does not excuse continued aggression at sea. Despite saving the crew of the sunken MV Devon Bay, officials insist hundreds of hostile actions against Filipinos remain unresolved. And a symbol of strengthening ties in Davao City, Mayor Baste Duterte welcomed Chinese Ambassador Ching Chuen on Monday for the walkthrough of the new China-funded Bukana Bridge. I'm Carlo de la Peña. Newsline World starts now. For the news, countries across Asia have reinstated COVID-era screening measures following an outbreak of the deadly Nipah virus in India's West Bengal state, with a fatality rate as high as 75% and with no known vaccine. Health authorities in Thailand and Nepal are racing to prevent the virus from crossing international borders. Jane Cognita reports.
Health checkpoints are returning to major Asian airports as a rare and lethal pathogen emerges in eastern India. The outbreak, centered at a private hospital in Barasat, West Bengal, has prompted officials to quarantine nearly 200 contacts after several healthcare workers were hospitalized. While India's health ministry reports only 2 confirmed cases since December, the high mortality rate of the virus has triggered a swift regional response from neighbors like Thailand and Nepal. Travelers are now being warned to watch for early symptoms that often mimic common respiratory illnesses. According to the World Health Organization, the initial signs of Nipah infection typically appear within 4 to 14 days of exposure. The first stage usually includes high fever, severe headache, muscle pain, and a sore throat, which may be accompanied by vomiting and a persistent cough. However, the virus is most feared for its rapid progression to the brain. In severe cases, patients can experience disorientation, drowsiness, and mental confusion. Without a specific vaccine or treatment, these neurological symptoms can lead to seizures and a coma within 24 to 48 hours. In Thailand, temperature checks and health declarations are now mandatory for all passengers arriving from West Bengal at Suvarnabhumi and Phuket airports. Nepal has followed suit, setting up health desks at land border crossings and the Kathmandu airport to monitor for symptomatic arrivals. Authorities are also advising travelers to avoid raw date palm sap and to thoroughly wash off fruits, as the virus is naturally carried by fruit bats and can be transmitted through contaminated food. As the situation evolves, health agencies across the continent remain on high alert, emphasizing that early detection and isolation are the only ways to contain the spread. This has been Jane Cognita, Global Citizen Correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
The defense ministers of Russia and China have held a high-level video conference to coordinate their responses to the rapidly shifting geopolitical landscape. Citing recent turmoil in Venezuela and Iran as critical examples, both nations vowed to deepen their strategic partnership to inject positive energy into global stability. Prince Tripoli reports.
Against a backdrop of rising global tensions, Russian Defense Minister Andrei Belousov and his Chinese counterpart Dong Jun met via video link on Tuesday to solidify their military alliance. The talks centered on the need for a unified front as traditional power structures in the Middle East and Latin America face significant upheaval following the capture of Nicolas Maduro and ongoing unrest in Iran.
Примеры Венесуэлы, Ирана требуют от наших ведомств организации постоянного анализа ситуации в сфере безопасности и соответствующих действий. Сегодня в условиях динамичного изменения мировой военно-политической обстановки востребован регулярный обмен мнениями по военному сотрудничеству.
Belousov emphasized that regular dialogue is now more important than ever as the global military landscape undergoes rapid changes. He credited the special relationship between President Vladimir Putin and President Xi Jinping as the central force driving this unprecedented level of cooperation. Responding to the call, China's Defense Minister Dong Jun reiterated Beijing's readiness to implement the consensus reached by their heads of state, citing progress in joint patrols and specialized training. The meeting comes just as the United States shifts its focus toward the so-called Dawn Road Doctrine in the Western Hemisphere, a move both Moscow and Beijing view as a threat to their shared interests. Dawn Road Doctrine refers to the foreign policy approach of the Trump administration, described as a more aggressive and modern adaptation of the 1823 Monroe Doctrine. By strengthening exchange mechanisms and joint operational readiness, China and Russia aim to create a counterweight to unilateral actions that have recently redrawn the geopolitical map. As the strategic partnership enters its 30th year, both sides remain committed to what they call high-level coordination to address the evolving risks of 2026. Reporting from Newsline World, this has been Prince Tripoli, SMNI News.
18 people have died while 10 others remain missing after the sinking of MV Trisha Kirsten in Basilan. Meanwhile, 9 people are still being searched for after a motor banker sank in the waters of Davao and Sarangani. Daniela Paudita reports.
Search and rescue operations by the Philippine Coast Guard continue for the 10 missing passengers after the vessel MV Trisha Kirsten 3 sank near Balok-Balok Island in Basilan. According to the Coast Guard, 18 fatalities have been confirmed, while 316 passengers survived the incident, which occurred early Monday morning, January 26. The PCG said survivors have already reunited with their families after receiving medical assistance from the Department of Social Welfare and Development. PCG spokesperson Captain Noemi Kayabyab said that an investigation into the incident will begin after the rescue operations conclude. In a separate incident, 16 people died, 9 individuals remain missing, and 1 person survived after motor Bangka Mehara sank in the waters of Davao and Sarangani. Aerial search operations are ongoing with support from various agencies to speed up efforts to locate the missing. The Coast Guard also clarified that they immediately deployed assets upon receiving the report about the sinking of the motor Bangka and that the delay occurred because the information was received late.
There's no delay on the part of the Philippine Coast Guard upon the receipt of the information. However, medyo nagkaroon po ng konting delay na po yung pag-transmit sa atin ng information. And then, nagkaroon na rin po tayo ng scientific base of identifying the search area kasi malakas po ang current that time. So yung mga possible drifting zone po, dyan na rin po natin nakita yung mga na-recover po natin ng mga bodies.
PCG spokesperson Captain Kayabyab said one of the factors behind the recent maritime incidents is the ongoing northeast monsoon or amihan.
Usually, affecting po talaga dito na isa sa mga factors is yung weather, no? Amihan po kasi ngayon. So kahit wala pong bagyo, kahit wala po tayong gale warning, meron talagang areas na malakas pa rin po ang current, malakas po yung hangin. So ito, nakikita po rin yung amihan. So nagiging trend po usually this months po yung ganito mga insidente.
Reporting for Newsline World, Daniela Paulita, SMNI News.
Up next, a symbol of strengthening ties in Davao City. Mayor Baste Duterte welcomed Chinese Ambassador Jing Chuen on Monday for the walkthrough of the new China-funded Bukana Bridge. More news when Newsline World returns.
Isang pindot lang, pwede kang maka-jackpot. Mukhang masaya at easy money lang. Sa murang halaga, pwede ka na tumaya sa online gambling at e-casino apps. Mayroong sabong, slot machines, mahjong, poker at iba pa. Kailangan mo lang ng smartphone, e-wallet at internet. Pero ang aliw na ito, unti-unting nagiging bitag para sa mga Pilipino. Lalo na kung ang paborito mong artista o influencer ang mukha ng app. Mas madaling makaengganyo, diba? Parang safe naman kasi may kilalang mukha. Pero sa likod ng ngiti, sugal pa rin ang itinutulak. At syempre, mas madali ring itago ang pagkalulong sa bisyong ito. Walang pisikal na kasino o pasugalan. Walang kaharap, walang accountability. Kaya't mas lumalala ang adiksyon. Dagdag pa rito, maraming online gambling apps at walang regulasyon. Sa likod ng mga makukulay na interface at papremyo, nakatago ang problemang bumabalot ngayon sa bansa. Ang pagkalulong ng maraming Pilipino sa online gambling. Pwede maglaro kahit saan, kahit kailan, kahit sino, bata man o matanda, pwedeng malulong. Ayon sa mga eksperto, ang pagkakalulong sa online gambling ay nagdudulot ng matinding stress at anxiety, pagkakabaon sa utang, pagkawasak ng pamilya, pagkawala ng tiwala sa sarili. At tulad ng ibang bisyo, may mga senyales ito tulad ng hindi makapagpigil kahit walang pera, palihim na tumataya, pagpapabaya sa trabaho, pamilya o sarili. Sa bawat taya, may mga taong tunay na kumikita, mga malalaking negosyante at investors na negosyo ang bisyo ng masa. Para sa kanila, perang pumapasok lang ito. Pero para sa ordinaryong Pilipino, kabuhayan at relasyon ang nauubos. At ang masakit, tila matagal itong nahayaan. Hindi ito naging prioridad ng mga nakaupo sa taas hanggang sa sobrang lumala at halos naapektuhan na ang buong komunidad. Ngayon, sa dami ng nalulong at sa laki ng pinsalang naidulot, saka palalong umugong ang mga panukalang batas para higpitan ng online gambling. Gaya ng pagbabawal sa paggamit ng e-wallets para tumaya, pagtaas ng minimum bet, mas mahigpit na identity verification, pag-block ng mga illegal na gambling sites, at bawasan o ipagbawal ang mga ads na target ang kabataan. Maaari itong magmukhang laro lang, pero sa katotohanan, isa itong sugal sa kinabukasan. Ang kita na dapat sa mga pangunahing pangangailangan o ipon na uubos sa sugal. At sa mundo ng online gambling, mas madali kang matalo kaysa manalo. Huwag hayaang sugal ang magdikta sa iyong buhay. Isang paalala mula sa SMNI.
Hoy, magnanakaw! Tingin! Pulis to! Hala, magnanakaw!
Magnanakaw! Magnanakaw!
Hoy, magnanakaw!
Magnanakaw! Magnanakaw!
Ano kayang gagawin ko? Ipamimigay ko yung konti para tumigil sila sa pag-iingay.
Pare, magnanakaw, namimigay ng pera.
Eto ang sayo.
Wow! Ang bait ng magnanakaw!
Eto naman sayo.
Kuya, yung
Eto
share ko! Sana
Huwag ka nang maingay. Eto pa. Tama na yan. Nakikipalato lang kayo eh. Huwag nang maingay. Diba? Konti lang pinamigay ko, mabait na ako. Tahimik na sila, easy. Ngayon, pwede ko na tong suluhin.
Masaya ang mga tao, pero tama po ba ito? Di po ba ang nakikinabang sa magnanakaw ay kasabwat ng magnanakaw?
Ikaw, kinukonsenti mo ba ang legal na korupsyon?
Back to the news. Proponents of the people's impeachment have clarified why their complaint against President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. was not filed, saying intended congressional endorsers backed out due to intense pressure. MJ Mondiha reports.
In an official Facebook post, the proponents of the so-called people's impeachment explain why their complaint against Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. was not filed. In their statement, the group said that support collapsed for the refiling of the third impeachment complaint against the president. According to the group, the case remains strong and the evidence has not changed. However, due to intense political pressure, the congressmen who were supposed to endorse the complaint backed out.
Nakakalungkot dahil nung pumunta kami to file, nandyan yung aming mga endorsers, kaya lang hindi namin pina-expose. Precisely dahil ayaw namin ngang ma-identify sila dahil baka nga ayun na, nawala na.
Retired AFP General and lawyer Virgilio Garcia said that there were initially 3 intended endorsers who were present when the group attempted to file the complaint in January 22. They were allegedly with them on the same day when they attempted to file the complaint against the president. However, they chose not to immediately disclose the names of those endorsers after learning that the Office of the House Secretary General did not accept the complaint filed by leftist Makabayan Bloc. Because of this, forces opposed to the people's impeachment allegedly had the opportunity to approach and pressure their endorsers.
But at that time, we had 3 talaga. That's totoo. Tapos by pressure, by unti isa-isa na nawala until during the day, naantay na lang namin. So, begop na lang, hindi na sumasagot.
The group stressed that the failure to file the third impeachment complaint is not a judgment on the merits of the case. Instead, they said this reflects the current state of politics, where democratic processes are suppressed through intimidation and transactional politics, instead of being resolved through an open debate.
Hindi naman banta, pero they will be in hot water, they will be, alam mo na, yung merong matinding pressure na mangyayari sa kanila sa Kongreso, kaya nawala
Because of this, no one can now pursue the filing of a new impeachment complaint since the initiation process has already been completed by the earlier complaints. This means that the 1-year bar rule will now apply until 2027 against any new impeachment proceedings against the president. The group also maintained that the complaints accepted by the House against Marcos are all fake. Despite this, they said they will continue their fight for accountability. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been MJ Mondehat, SMNI News.
A study has shown the benefits to Filipino families if the value-added tax, or VAT, in the country is reduced to 10%. This includes an estimated additional 8,000 pesos in income for a Filipino household. MJ Mondeja returns for this report.
The Congressional Policy and Budget Research Department of the House of Representatives, or the CPBRD, released a study on the proposal to reduce the value-added tax, or VAT, to 10%. VAT is the consumption tax applied to most goods, services, and imports in the Philippines. According to the study, this measure is not only feasible, but will also help stimulate economic growth. Under House Bill number 4302, VAT will be reduced from 12% to 10%. This is equivalent to nearly 8,000 pesos in additional income for every Filipino family each year. But the question is, will the government lose some revenue? Although the government will lose 200 billion in revenue, the study emphasized that it is only a small fraction compared to the amount lost due to corruption. Based on the data, an estimated 480 billion is lost from public funds every year due to corruption in infrastructure projects such as flood control. According to experts, if corruption is addressed and government spending is improved through right-sizing, the revenue loss from the VAT cut can be easily recovered. Aside from direct savings from consumers, this tax cut is also seen as a way to stimulate business growth. It is expected to encourage small business owners to properly register within the government due to lower taxes. At the same time, the study states that lowering VAT will lead to increased consumer demand, which will result in more jobs for Filipinos. The featured bill also clarified that it contains a safety provision. In case of an economic crisis or insufficient tax collection, the government has the authority to restore VAT to 12% to protect economic stability. Batangas 1st District Representative Leandro Leviste, the principal author of House Bill 4302, welcomed the CPBRD study supporting the VAT reduction. On his official Facebook page, Congressman Leviste said he joined the majority bloc in the House to push for the reduction of VAT to 10%. However, this was allegedly delayed because some didn't want to reduce the government's source of revenue. At present, according to Leviste, the proposal remains stalled at the committee level in the Philippine House of Representatives. With the bill still pending, the debate now turns to the public, weighing tax relief for consumers against concerns over government funding.
Kagaya sa amin, minimum wager ka lang. Masyadong malaki yung bat na kukuha ng gobyerno sa amin. Maliit lang sinasahod namin kaya kinukulang.
Kasi po as a consumer po talaga masyado pong mataas yung 12% VAT. Dapat po talaga mas babaan kasi po hindi naman po ganun kalaki yung kinikita natin as Pilipino. Marami nga po nag-iibang bansa kasi ganun kaliit yung kita natin. Sa VAT pa lang masyado nang mahal yung binabayaran natin, so that's why po talaga medyo babaan man lang.
Mahal na yung commodities, yung mga bilihin sobrang mahal na. So dapat talagang babaan na.
Reporting for Newsline World, this has been MJ Mondihap, SMNI News.
Despite the rescue of 15 Filipino crew members after the vessel MV Devon Bay sank in waters west of Pangasinan, the Armed Forces of the Philippines said the incident does not erase the hundreds of aggressive actions committed against Filipinos. Almar Forsuelo will give us the details.
Una sa lahat, tayo ay natutuwa na ligtas yung ating mga kababayan. Secondly, actions like this are what are expected of responsible Coast Guards around the world, regardless of nationality.
This was the message of the Armed Forces of the Philippines following the rescue of 15 Filipino crew members of the sunken MV Devon Bay by the China Coast Guard. Speaking at a press briefing in Camp Aguinaldo, Philippine Navy Rear Admiral Roy Vincent Trinidad said it is normal for any Coast Guard to render assistance in cases of maritime accidents or tragedies.
We would like to look at this as every mariner, every Coast Guard is mandated to render assistance to fellow mariners, regardless of creed, regardless of flag, regardless of nationality.
Trinidad did not express gratitude to the China Coast Guard, citing its record of harassing Filipinos in the West Philippine Sea.
We do not expect any further announcements that would highlight such rescue because it is expected. Especially so if the one conducting the rescue has a past record of coercive and aggressive actions. Otherwise, highlighting such activities would lose the essence of the rescue itself, and it may even go to mere propaganda.
Trinidad stressed that a single act of assistance does not outweigh past incidents.
It will not erase the hundreds of coercive and aggressive actions done in the past.
In the end, while China helped save the lives of Filipino crew members, the AFP raised serious questions over why Chinese vessels were operating within the Philippines Exclusive Economic Zone or EEZ.
That should also be a question that is asked. Ano ang ginagawa ng kanilang mga barko sa loob ng ating EEZ? One, rescue, which is expected of all Coast Guards around the world, will not justify illegal intrusions into our EEZ.
For God and my beloved Philippines, Almar Forsuelo, SMNI News.
Walking the span of one of Davao City's newest landmarks, Chinese Ambassador Jing Chuen pointed to the China-funded Bukana Bridge as a concrete symbol of strengthening Philippines-China's ties. The visit followed a courtesy call on Davao City Mayor Sebastian Duterte. Stella Maris tells us the details.
On Tuesday, January 27, a new landmark that Davao City can be proud of, the China-funded Bukana Bridge, took center stage as Chinese ambassador to the Philippines, Jing Chuen, underscored the importance of deepening bilateral cooperation. The ambassador spotlighted infrastructure links, such as the Bukana Bridge in Davao City, as concrete examples of growing Philippines-China cooperation. While specific public remarks at the bridge site were not detailed in official local reports, Jing's broader diplomatic engagements have consistently highlighted the role of China's supported infrastructure in enhancing connectivity and economic development in the Philippines. The 17.8-kilometer Bukana Bridge have significantly reduced travel time and contributed to regional development. Funded through China's official development assistance, the 3.1 billion bridge connects barangays Bukana and Matina Playa and was inaugurated in December 2025 with expectations of easing congestion and facilitating safer travel for motorists across Davao City. Ambassador Jing arrived in Davao City on Monday, January 26, for a 2-day trip to strengthen diplomatic and local-level ties, met with Davao City Mayor Sebastian Baste Duterte in a courtesy call that emphasized continued collaboration in trade, investment, infrastructure, education, and people-to-people exchanges. Mayor Duterte shared photos and details of the meeting on his official Facebook page, noting the warm reception and the goal of enhancing cooperation on various fronts. The visit comes amid broader diplomatic activities by Ambassador Jing, who also met with local officials in other parts of the Philippines as part of efforts to deepen economic and cultural ties. According to reports, discussions in Davao City focused on boosting cooperation and fostering opportunities for trade and investment. Local observers say such engagements reflect the important role that local government units can play in supporting stronger bilateral relations with international partners and translating national diplomacy into tangible community benefits. This is Stella Maris, your citizen correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
Pasasaan pa ang kalayaan kung ang mga alipin ngayon ay sila din naman mang-aalipin bukas.
Ibigin mo ang iyong bayan ng sunod kay Bathala, sa iyong kapurihan at higit sa lahat sa iyong sarili.
Hindi natin mapapalaya ang ating mga sarili maliban kung sumunong tayo na nagkakaisa sa iisang hangarin.
Ang tunay na makabayan ay ang tumutupad ng pagpapabuti ng kanyang mga kapwa, gaano man kaaba ang kanyang katungkulan. Naway magsilbing paalala ang kanilang mga salita upang lalo nating mahalin at tapat na paglingkuran ang minamahal nating inang bayan.
Madalas ka bang napapasobra sa pag-scroll sa phone mo kahit puro masasamang balita ang nakikita mo? Isipin mo ito. Nakahiga ka na sa kama, nagche-check lang ng phone bago matulog. Tapos, hindi mo na malayan, ilang oras ka na palang nagbabasa at nanonood ng mga balita tungkol sa digmaan, sakuna, politika, at lahat ng masasamang nangyayari sa mundo. Nakakaramdam ka na ng kaba at pagod, pero tuloy mo pa rin ang scroll mo. Ang tawag dyan ay doom scrolling. Ito ang habit ng paulit-ulit na pagtingin sa mga negatibo o nakakadepress na content tulad ng digmaan, krimen, o problema sa mundo. Nakaka-stress pero hindi mo pa rin mapigilan. Ayon sa isang pag-aaral ng Texas Tech University, ang sobrang konsumo ng masasamang balita ay nauugnay sa pagtaas ng stress, anxiety at pisikal na sintomas gaya ng pagkapagod at sakit ng ulo. Ayon naman sa Harvard Health, ang doom scrolling ay nagpapataas ng fight or flight hormones tulad ng cortisol at adrenaline na nakakapagpabigat ng isip at katawan. Nakakaapekto ito sa iyong mood, tulog at maging sa mental at physical health mo. At kapag naman puro memes at random na content ang pinapanood mo ng sunod-sunod hanggang sa mawalan ka na ng gana na mag-isip at gumawa ng iba pang gawain, ang tawag naman diyan ay brain rot. Sa Gen Z at tinatawag na internet culture, ang brain rot ay overconsumption o sobrang tagal na panonood ng paulit-ulit, mababaw, magulo o walang saysay na content online hanggang sa parang manhid na ang utak mo. Kapag nasobrahan, syempre, nakakasama. Nawawalan ka na ng focus, nawawala ang motivation, hirap mag-isip ng malalim,
parang lutang o foggy ang utak. Masaya sa simula, pero kapag sobra, napapagod ang isip mo. Nahihirapang mag-concentrate at parang lutang. Mas delikado pa ito sa mga bata dahil ang utak nila ay nasa proseso pa ng pag-develop. Kaya mas malakas ang epekto ng doom scrolling at brain rot sa kanila. Maaaring makaapekto sa pag-aaral, pag-iisip at pakikitungo sa iba. Ang higit sa 4 na oras ng screen time araw-araw sa mga kabataan ay konektado sa 35 to 88% na mas mataas na posibilidad ng depresyon, anxiety at stress. Base ito sa isang malawakang pag-aaral sa Brazil. Kaya, maging balanse. Magpahinga sa screen, magbasa, makipagkwentuhan, magdasal, maging present lagi. Alagaan ang iyong isipan. Kung anong itinatanim sa isipan mo, yun ang lalago.
The Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board, or LTFRB, has issued a show-cause order against 4 bus companies in Quezon City for violations of the agency's guidelines on the minimum maintenance requirements for passenger terminals. Angel Pastor reports.
The Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board, or LTFRB, has issued a show-cause order against 4 bus companies after their passenger terminals were found to be poorly maintained and not compliant with established standards. According to LTFRB Chairperson Attorney Vigor Mendoza, the issuance of the SCO was based on the results of surprise inspections conducted at several bus terminals in Quezon City. Among those served with show-cause orders were Beleza Transport Corporation and Mega Bus Lines Corporation, with terminals in Cubao, as well as Eagle Star Transit Corporation and Elaville Field Stores Incorporated. Based on the inspection report, each bus company was found to have at least 10 violations of LTFRB rules regarding the minimum maintenance requirements for passenger terminals. Common violations included the lack of roofing to protect passengers from heat and rain, absence of proper and separate comfort rooms for men, women, and persons with disabilities, insufficient security measures such as CCTV and baggage inspection, and the absence of PWD ramps. Earlier, the LTFRB declared a crackdown on illegal and substandard terminals that serve as havens for colorum vehicles. The 4 bus companies were ordered to submit a written explanation on why their certificate of public conveyance, which grants them the legal authority to operate, should not be revoked. The initial hearing for the 4 bus companies has been scheduled on February 11. Chairperson Mendoza also urged all bus companies, transport groups, and cooperatives to ensure that the terminals they manage comply with LTFRB regulations to avoid similar penalties. For God and my beloved Philippines, Angel Pastor, SMNI News.
Mexico has clarified that the suspension of its oil shipments to Cuba was a sovereign decision, President Claudia Sheinbaum said, denying claims of external pressure. Sheinbaum has confirmed that the suspension of oil shipments bound for Cuba was a sovereign decision and not the result of any external influence. Sheinbaum said that Mexico's oil supply to Cuba is part of a long-standing policy of solidarity that the country has maintained for many years.
Como hemos dicho, es una decisión soberana y Pemex toma sus decisiones. Entonces, y también, como lo hemos dicho, la decisión de México de vender o dar por razones humanitarias a Cuba petróleo, pues tiene que ver también con una decisión soberana que ha venido desde hace muchos años, no es reciente.
With that, Sheinbaum said Mexico will continue to support Cuba, which is currently facing a severe energy crisis following the halt of Venezuelan crude shipments after a recent U.S. military operation against the country. ASEAN and the Russian Federation are set to further strengthen their ties in the exchange of expertise and tourism cooperation following the conclusion of the 16th meeting of the ASEAN-Russian Federation Tourism Consultation. Eileen Navarro reports from Cebu.
ASEAN and the Russian Federation reaffirmed their long-standing relations to further strengthen the exchange of expertise and tourism cooperation. This follows the 16th meeting of the ASEAN-Russian Federation Tourism Consultation held this January 27. The DOT Undersecretary Verna C. Buensuceso emphasized ASEAN's continued appreciation of the Russian Federation as a long-standing partner in strengthening people-to-people exchanges in tourism. According to Undersecretary Buensuceso, the ASEAN-Russian partnership is vital because it is rooted in shared aspirations, a tourism industry that is resilient amidst crisis, inclusive in the opportunities it creates, respectful of culture, heritage, and nature, and serves as a pathway to peace and deeper global understanding. The official also shared that in 2024, Southeast Asia welcomed over 2 million Russian tourists. In 2025, visitor arrivals from Russian Federation once again surpassed the 2 million mark, a testament, she noted, to the growing confidence and interest in the region. It will be recalled that Cebu province established a sisterhood agreement with St. Petersburg's Russia under former Governor Gwendolyn Garcia. Before her term ended, Garcia returned to Russia to renew the said agreement. Meanwhile, Cebu City under former Mayor Mike Rama and Vladivostok, Russia, signed an official sister city agreement in September 2023. This stemmed from a prior friendship agreement and aims to expand cooperation in culture, tourism, trade, education, public health, and other sectors. As they look toward the ASEAN-Russian Federation Tourism Work Plan for 2026 and beyond, Undersecretary Buensuceso encouraged delegates to engage in discussions that are both visionary and practical, focusing on strengthening tourist confidence and safety. She added that ASEAN acknowledges that the future of tourism is becoming increasingly digital.
We also recognize that the future of tourism is increasingly digital, and this is an opportunity we can embrace together by exchanging good practices in digital transformation.
Aside from digital transformation, making cooperation is vital in the use of data to better understand tourist needs and the conduct of joint promotions and creative storytelling to showcase the unique attractions of the destinations. On the part of Russia, Igor Maximov, Deputy Director of the Ministry of Economic Development of the Russian Federation, said that although the country's tourism sector was affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, it has rebounded over the past 4 years and continues to grow. He added that Russia is now looking at adopting a new joint work plan extending until 2030.
In this regard, the adoption of new joint work plan until 2030 seems to be a good step to developing mutually beneficial partnership.
With the continued rise in the number of Russian tourists visiting Southeast Asia, ASEAN hopes that expanding cooperation, especially in digital tourism, connectivity, and workforce development, will open up more opportunities for the region. Under the ASEAN-Russian Federation Tourism Work Plan for 2026 and beyond, ties between both parties are expected to further intensify to ensure the safer, more seamless, and more meaningful travel experience. Reporting for Newsline World, Eileen Navarro, SMNI News.
Not a pop star or a movie character, but a sad red plush horse has become one of the surprise sensations of the entertainment and consumer world as China gears up for the 2026 Lunar New Year. The toy, now widely known online as the crying horse, has dominated social media trends and toy collecting chatter thanks to its unique expression and unexpected cultural resonance. Here's Daniela Paulite for the story.
As China prepares for the Lunar New Year and the Year of the Horse, wholesalers at Yiwu International Trade City are enjoying a sales surge, all thanks to an unexpected factory mistake. Originally created as a cheerful zodiac decoration to welcome the Year of the Horse, this plush was meant to sport a happy smile. But when a factory worker accidentally sewed its mouth upside down, The resulting frowning, almost forlorn look sparked laughter and relatability among young Chinese workers. Factories in Yangzhou City are facing soaring demand, receiving massive orders for the crying horse, with workers now operating overtime to meet demand.
这一套就是我们今年推出的一套五骏送福啊，5色小马寓意了福禄寿喜财。年前的话已经接到了这个20万套的这个订单量，目前正在加班加点赶至春节前交付。
Within days of photos circulating on Chinese platforms, the plush horse became a social media favorite, jointly celebrated as an ugly cute fashion item. Young shoppers, especially office workers, have joked that the toy's gloomy gaze perfectly captures the grind of everyday life, saying it reflects how tired they feel after long, demanding work days far more accurately than the cheerful version ever could. Tang Lili, the manager of the plush toy company, noted that the new product is selling significantly better than their previous designs in recent years.
我们也发现马年的这个产品的话，跟往年比起来的话，真的是会更热销一点。所以仓库一直都在忙着打包我们的那个马年的产品。
What began as a simple production error now also serves as a light-hearted pop culture touchstone and unofficially one of China's first big consumer trends of 2026. The new year will be celebrated in February, marking the Year of the Horse. Reporting for Newsline World, Daniela Paulita, SMNI News.
Natalie Portman has criticized the 2026 Oscars for overlooking female directors in the Best Director category, expressing frustration over the ongoing lack of representation for women behind the camera. In other showbiz update, Harry Styles is officially back on the road. The English singer and songwriter has officially revealed the dates for his highly anticipated 2026 global tour, Together Together. Blake Ann has all the buzz.
Natalie Portman voiced her disappointment in a statement that has sparked widespread conversation, criticizing the absence of women in the Best Director category, despite several critically acclaimed films directed by women over the past year. The actress, who previously made headlines in 2018 for calling attention to the all-male lineup of Best Director nominees, reaffirmed her stance in the issue, highlighting that women continue to face significant barriers in the film industry, both in terms of recognition and opportunity. The 2026 Oscars, which have already been criticized for the lack of diversity in the nominees, now face growing scrutiny over their gender representation. While Portman's comments have generated mixed reactions, they undoubtedly reignited a crucial conversation about gender equity in the entertainment industry. And buckle your seats up, Harry Styles is back. The Together Together tour kicks off on May 16 in Amsterdam with a 6-night run before moving on to London for another 6 nights. It will then head to Sao Paulo for 2 shows, followed by 2 nights in Mexico City. The tour will continue with 30 performances at New York City's Madison Square Garden, 2 shows in Melbourne, and 2 in Sydney, where it will wrap up in December. The singer made the announcement on Thursday via his official Instagram, which greatly excited and thrilled his fans. The tour, which marks Styles' first major run since his last global trek in 2022, is expected to feature a set list of tracks from his acclaimed solo albums. The 2026 tour follows the anticipated release of Styles' 4th studio album, which is expected to drop in March 6. Full tour dates and locations are available on Harry Styles' official website, and fans are encouraged to follow his social media for real-time updates. And that's all for now. I'm Blake Ed, bringing you the latest showbiz.
And before we end, may you be inspired by the words of the sun. No matter who you are or whatever your circumstances in life, there are always things to be grateful for. And that's all for today's edition of Newsline World. For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, I'm Carlo de la Peña. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.